Folks, my name is Sean Robinson, and I'm delighted to have you here. We were to have quite a contingent of educators from Argentina, India. I'm not totally sure if it was time zones or whatnot that is causing them not to be able to show up. But I'm just going to keep watch on the chat and on the participants just to make sure that we don't leave anybody in a waiting room. I'm delighted to welcome you to something that I've never done before, but it is a Connection Lens book club launcher. And my hope was, after launching the book 1 month ago, to allow educators to have a chance to take a look at it and then use the book in such a way to have other people, like a book club or something at their school, have other people be able to learn about the book. And I wanted to start things off by having this Zoom. But really, one of the things that I prize is getting together. And this is really just an opportunity to get together as educators and spend some time talking about making global connections, local connections, and really leveraging connection for learning. And I just wanted to start off with a chance to introduce ourselves. I'll talk a little bit about myself, but Kristen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen. I'm a teacher in the same district as Sean, actually. And I'm extra lucky because sometimes he even comes into my classroom to help me build connections with people and other teachers and other students around the world. So it's been, I'm really excited to be here and say hi to everybody and connect globally. This is something new for me too. So really excited. Thank you for the opportunity, Sean.
Awesome. Welcome, Kristen. And Diane. So let's just, we'll start with North America. So here is Diane.
Oh, hi, everyone. It's so exciting to be here. I'm actually from Mission, British Columbia, so that's our first connection with Kristen and Sean. And so I'm actually an adjunct professor in the Faculty of Education at the University of Ottawa. And I'm also what they call a co-leader of the Global Education Cohort. And so last year I was teaching a graduate course and I came across Sean's book, the first book, and I put it on the reading list and we all read it. And lo and behold, at least one of the students, I think, contacted you, Sean, and then they told me that they contacted you and that I should contact you. And so the book actually did what it was setting out to do. So here I am, I'm back, and I want to try to get into this a little bit more deeply. So I so appreciate you having this session.
Hey, thanks, Diane. That's awesome. Hey, let's move over to Africa. I'm hoping that Catherine, that everything's working with your Zoom. So Catherine, can you introduce yourself? I'm hoping it's going to work out. There we go. I hear you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine. I will go from Uganda. I'm a teacher of mathematics and a girl child empowerment, and I do girl child education, and I'm executive director of where Sean came around and we had the connection-based learning workshop, which was one of its kind in Uganda, and I'm also a global teacher. Yeah, I'm happy to meet all of you and to be here.
Thanks, Catherine. And I just want to fill in some of the details there if it didn't come through. So Catherine and we met over, I think, Twitter, and we connected as educators interested in making connections with the community, experts, organizations, and classrooms around the world. And through, wow, some amazing events, I was able to head to Uganda and Catherine was talking about a workshop that I put on there. And our classes, Catherine, her class, her physics class, my Science 9 class, we were able to make a connection, work on a global project where my students, with the help of their students, were able to create these low-cost solar computers, basically, and get them into, well, one, we were able to get into a slum area where Catherine is working, a rural area as well, and it was just a wonderful opportunity to make a connection, but also to do some humanitarian work. Catherine is actually working on building a school in one of the slum areas of Uganda. And if we have some time at the end, I would love her to share a little bit about what she is hoping to do, because it's truly exciting. So that's Catherine Nakabugo. Actually, there's so much more to say about her. Global Teacher Prize, top 50 finalist as well. So thanks so much, Catherine, for joining us. Why don't we head over? We've got a few more people coming in, and just as you come in, we're just introducing ourselves. I see Fred, I see Des, and why don't we head over to Asia, and Mio, could you introduce yourself, please?
All right, good morning, guys, and good evening here. It's 11:30, oh wait, it's 11:45 p.m. Wow, here in Japan. I am Mio Horio, and I'm an English teacher. At a secondary school. I mean students aged 16 to 18 years old. And yeah, I use more connection tools like Zoom or like Skype in the classroom or other platforms to connect students all over the world, because where I teach is located in a very rural area called Shiga Prefecture, and it's about 1 hour train ride to Kyoto, the oldest cities. But here we have only one train per 1 hour, no buses, and the car is essential for our lives. Yeah, and we have very few connection to the world, but I would like to give more opportunity to learn globally to my students. And that's why I use technology. And, you know, I met Sean in person in Dubai. It's 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a fellow Global Teacher Prize finalist. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mio. Wonderful to have you. One of the things that, as I was planning this event, I was thinking I would love to have Mio come. And having it at 6:30 a.m. here in British Columbia just kind of makes that a little bit easier for her. And I know that if I see you click off, no problem, Mio. I know it's late there, but just so great to have you. Hey, I wouldn't mind heading back to Africa and having Fred, who I have met as well. So Fred, do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, thank you so much, Ramson. I'm so happy to be on the platform. As previously, I'm very grateful for the project we worked with you using connections, the Skype, and actually it was featured in the Microsoft blog, and my kids were very happy on that sustainability. I actually have that ramp. It's only that I forgot today. I could have shown it. It's something so good, and even I was just trying to put it in our science congress. And I love I also know Mario and other when we were in Uganda. We also met with the other colleague. So it's a nice platform, and I love what we are trying to do and work and empowering educators. And then, of course, we can transfer the skills to our kids. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Fred.
Yeah.
So neat to be able to, one, send you one of those solar lanterns, and so exciting to be able to see see it used in action, and then also, wonderful to be able to meet you. That was so great to be able to meet you in Uganda. Now, I know noticed that Deus was here, but he is not here right now. Hopefully, I know that sometimes connections can be tough, so hopefully he can join in. Folks, just want to remind everybody that I am recording this. I'll probably stick this just on my web page just to be able to reference it. So if it's okay with you, I'll do that. Also, don't feel like you have to turn your cameras off. You can keep your cameras on. And thanks so much for having your mics off when you're not speaking. It helps with removing background noise. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show just a quick introduction to the book, the connection lens, and a little bit of an introduction to myself as well. So here, let's get this started. Now, I've got a few more people in the waiting room. I'm just going to let in Niru from India and Gayanga from Uganda. Folks, it would be great if they got a chance to be able to share a little bit about themselves. So I'm just going to hold off on that, on the screen share. And why don't we head over to India. So Niru, you just logged on, but I wanted to give you a chance to share just a little bit about yourself. Feel free to share your connection to me, your the work that you're doing in India. That would be great. Now, Niru, you are still muted, so, there we go.
Okay. Hi, Shane, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an honor to be connected with Shane Robinson. I just love the way he works, and oh my God, what an amount of work he's done. And I always follow his connection-based learning magazine. I get it free in my mail, and it's really awesome. Let me tell you, it's awesome. We learn a lot about how we can actually make our learning outcomes, how can we amplify our learning outcomes if we have this connection with the students. So this is what I learned. And in India also, like, I'm doing a lot of work on this. I'm a social emotional learning evangelist. Been connected with them for a long time now. And I feel that if I am connected to my students, I understand them, I have empathy with them, I can actually make them learn. I can actually make a difference in their lives, let them grow up to be passionate human beings. And I feel that is the most important thing as in the world right now. We need a lot of compassion. We need empathy so that, the problems of the world like climate change and poverty and equity in education, all this can be overcome. So I also created the happiness app through which we can actually access, assess the happiness levels in our classrooms of our students. And I really adore the work Sheen has done. He's written a very nice book, and I would recommend it to everyone. I in fact do that in my community already. And all the best to you, Sheen.
Thank you, Niru. Yeah, so great to be able to highlight you and your work in the most recent, well, actually it was a couple of issues ago, the CBLE magazine. Love the work that you do with SEL, your presentation, your app. It's so fantastic. And I see Gayanga Habib there, and Gayanga and I, we met in Uganda at your school, just in a rural area in Uganda. So Gayanga, could you share just a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself and our connection?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gayanga Habib. We're connected with Sean in a rural school here in Uganda. It's called Church of Uganda Primary School. So far, it has taken 1 year back since we connected, and our connection is really awesome. Created a very good impact in the classroom where I was teaching. whereby the learners of STEAM designed a tablet that works with solar, whereby we are able to connect, to really bring out the essence of connection-based learning with other learners. We were able to connect with learners in India and here within Uganda, and it was really a brilliant idea. So I commend you, Sean. Thanks for the good job, and I'm really thrilled to see what you are bringing on table at this time. I read a little bit when you sent on my email. It was awesome. That's how.
Fantastic. And Gayanga, if I can just clarify, did you say that you were able to make a connection with the classroom in India with the tablet that we left there?
Yes, we made a connection with learners in India time back, but we are closed up with the COVID situation. We cannot be able to connect those learners.
That's so awesome to hear that you're able to use that. I would love to hear more about that story. And just want to say we do have one more person here, and that is Kaysen Paul. But Kaysen is a newborn. So if you hear Kaysen with Kristen, don't worry about that. So Kaysen is totally welcome here, Kristen. I know that with a little one it's not so easy, but that's fantastic that Kaysen's here. I don't see any more people in the waiting room, so I'm going to try that again and share the screen. And I'll do my best to keep track of the chat, the waiting room, pretty much everything that's going on here. But if I miss anything, feel free to just pop in and say something. So folks, welcome to the book club launcher that I'm trying to do, and I want to share a couple of learning intentions. The first learning intention is just to connect. A lot of people here I haven't seen in a while, and I just love bringing people together. And I truly believe that when we get together, amazing things can happen. I mean, that's really the foundation of connection-based learning. When we make that connection, when we focus on a who, then allowing students to just run with it, I've seen so many great things. So, and that happens with educators as well. My second learning intention is that you become a boss when it comes to hosting a Connection Lens book club. That's not something that I'm saying, oh, you have to have read it to be here or anything like that. Just giving you some background in the new book and encouraging you to use that book because it's meant to bring people together. Now, I want to share a little bit about myself, and so I'll start with some background about me and the idea of the Connection Lens and connection-based learning. I want to share also ideas around where we're headed with all of this CBL stuff and Connection Lens. What are we hoping to get? I'll look at the introduction of the book. We'll talk about chapter 1 and the Explore CBL chapter. And then I've got some questions for you. I'm hoping to have a lively discussion. It might be longer than an hour. Feel free if you're thinking, oh, I only allotted an hour to this. That's okay if you have to leave. But I do want to make sure that we have questions for you to have some discussion, and then at the end, some questions for me. Now, folks, I wanted to introduce myself and what is going on. Oh, here, I just want to, before I do that, here's a slide of how you can help. And there's really 3 ways that you can help with kind of my mission here. One is, so here's this new book. You can get to it through Amazon, bit.ly CBL Book 2. So if you're able to get there, encourage other people to go there, pick up the book. The ebook is a cup of expensive coffee, so and it'll last forever. So if you can do that. The second thing is feel free to have a book club with that book. Here you can see a picture of our launch, and it's so great just to gather people together. So if you can, do a Zoom book launch during these times of social distancing because of COVID-19, that would be fantastic. Or as things open up in your country, feel free to gather, just recognizing health guidelines in your own area. And then finally, and Kristen, you might be happy to see this, that I caught your review. It's great to have these reviews on Amazon. It just helps people get eyes on the ideas here. Now, a little bit of background to me. Folks, it's always hard just to be able to talk about yourself. So instead of talking about me, I thought I'd just bring in my eHarmony portfolio here and just share with you this so that I don't have to say very much about myself. Okay, I'm just kidding. This is not real. Anyways, no, this is more my a little bit about me. I'm an elementary trained middle school teacher that happens to be teaching high school. I have taught kind of all through the grades, and I'm hoping to get into adult education actually. I currently teach science and digital literacy in Riverside Secondary. I've got these 2 books going on. I've got actually a 3rd book, but I don't talk about that too much. But if you dig a little bit, you'll be able to find it. And I am a Teacher Prize finalist as well, with the Premier's Award for Excellence in Education winner in 2018. Here's a little bit more about me as far as Teach CBL Instagram, SR Tutor, that's my site. And folks, I guess it was about 5-6 years ago, I had a sense that I needed to change around what I was doing in the classroom. And as I found my students connecting, I started with project-based learning, and as I found my students were connecting, it caused me to see education in a different way. Because when we were doing our projects in project-based learning, the students, when they made a connection, it just elevated everything that they did. When they were focused on something without a connection, and it was an individual project, it was good, but it always felt like it could be better. And with that, I began to create this process and approach to teaching, and I wrote this book, Connections-Based Learning. And truly, for me, it's a framework for teaching and learning. It's a way of looking at our teaching in a different way, because I truly believe that every time I share a person with my students, I increase in the meaning, I have motivation for my students, and I have a chance at increasing empathy for my students, and really an opportunity to change the world. Within that book, there are 3 lenses. So if you're interested in getting maybe a larger view of what's going on in connections-based learning, then it's the connections-based learning book that talks about the connection lens, talks about partnering with students and changing the question from how can we learn this to who can we engage as we learn. And in that connection lens section in the book, oh, I got to let in Habib again. He got kicked out. Sorry. In the connection lens book, or connection lens section in the book, it gives a whole bunch of learning outcomes. And it asks you to say, hey, now that with these learning outcomes and looking through a lens of connection, how can we change this idea from what apps do we need, what materials should we have, how are we going to engage our students, to who can we engage as we learn, changing the question to the who. I also include something called the collaboration lens, and that is the how. So we connect, but what does that look like? And then the cultivation lens is the why. Why do we do the things that we do? In the connection lens, I talk about 4 different kinds of connection. And you know what? There's more. These things overlap, but this is just a way to drill down into a focus on connection. We've got community engagement, so connecting with the community. We've got connections with experts and expert learning. We connect with organizations and we share resources. And then, of course, global partnerships, classrooms connecting with other classrooms and working together. Now, I want to begin with the end in mind. So I've given you an introduction to connections-based learning and the connection lens. Well, where am I going with this? Well, this is my hope for you. Here are some emails. These are real emails that I got from possible learning connections or connections that we connected in the class with our class. And these kinds of things I'm hoping for yourself, for other educators, whether it's an electrical group manager that you connect with as far as expert learning, or here Ron McKinnon is our local MLA, so we're doing some community engagement. Whether it's a stem cell researcher like Harris Walco or Tanya Harrison, whether it's another class like Catherine Nakabugo's class. My hope for you is that you're able to see this kind of connection within your community. Well, how does that happen? Well, it's something that opens or that requires opening the door to making those connections and really changing the way that we look at our learning outcomes. I also have here some quotes from students and what they think about it. So this is the end that I'm hoping for you to get to. This is the place where I hope that you're able to find kind of meaning through. All right, now in the connection lens, so this book right here, I start with an introduction. Throughout the book, we have definitions. So you'll find that when there's a term that might be confusing for a person, I try to make it really clear. So the connection lens and enhanced perception to see possible learning partner connections that empower the work we do. Connections-based learning, an approach to teaching that leverages the connected world to connect, collaborate, and cultivate positive change through meaningful relationships with others. PLN, personal learning network, and I'm sure that this connected audience here recognizes what a PLN is, but a network that just moves beyond face-to-face connections. And then this other term that I use throughout the book called a learning partner. A learning partner is whoever we're connecting with. And I had to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to denote a learning partner? Well, a learning partner is just the one that we connect with, an individual or group with whom we are connected to develop our students and ourselves. Now, in the introduction, and Catherine, I did mention that I was going to share a little bit about you, but in the introduction, I share about 3 amazing educators, just to get people understanding where this idea of connection-based learning can go. Greg Chosvold, who through expert learning was able to connect his students with bird experts, and in fact, he was connecting his students with all sorts of different experts, but I share a story about learning about dichotomous keys with bird experts. He is a comic book creator and a Prime Minister Award winner. We've got Barbara Zelanka, which I share about in the book. She's a fantastic global educator with amazing global projects, originally from Poland, working in Norway with numerous awards. And then we've met here Catherine Nakabugo as well. And I share about her story with community engagement, another top 50, really an advocate for girls' education and creating a school now, a special girls' school. And then in the introduction, I talk about this revision cycle. The revision cycle is how I am able to help educators to develop their connection lands. And it starts with rethinking. I have several chapters in the book on rethinking your understanding of the power of connection, whether it's looking at connection in terms of learning theory, whether it's looking at it in terms of actual results. This is the place that we rethink the way that we teach. And then I ask that you reframe learning goals in terms of who, considering connecting with the community, with experts, organizations, classrooms around the world. Can you reframe those learning goals in terms of a who, another person? Now, the next step is to reach out, to connect with those learning partners. I've got all sorts of tools to help you to reconnect or connect for the first time with individuals. And then we allow our students to follow their own directions. Once you've made that connection in terms of your learning goals, you release the control, talk about that. And then as students are releasing control, we reflect, all right? We consider what we've done well, what we need to work on. Reflection becomes part of our marking. We ask our students to reflect, maybe sharing in a digital portfolio, and then we repeat and do it again. This cycle allows you to change the way that you look at things, because once you get to that repeat, and you're going to find, wow, this wasn't as hard as I thought, and it's actually causing me to look at what I do in a different way. And then chapter 1. And folks, we are almost done my talk. I didn't want to talk too long. I ask in this chapter, how do you resist the pull of gravity? Mediocrity is something that I mentioned in this book, just kind of going through the motions. And I'm asking you, what do you do to resist the pull of gravity? I talk about some of the things that help me, but I really ask the reader to reflect on what they do. How do they resist the pull? And then I share some stories of some great educators that have resisted that pull of mediocrity. And I share about Michael Drezick. I share about Mio. I've got Mio in there. All sorts of educators who have said, you know what, I can do things better. And what I put out to you is that through connection, and it's not that hard, through making a connection, you can take what you do and elevate your work. Finally, I share about 100ed.org and really an interview that they had with Barbara Zelonka. And this interview just talks about connections-based learning being a useful tool that a teacher has at their disposal, all right? So that's the basic chapter. We start with this idea of rethinking, and everything is focused around the who. So that's what I want you to do with your thinking, with your education, is to start to see a focus around a who. Here are the questions that I put at the very end. How do you resist the pull of mediocrity as you plan learning experiences for your students? This is the first question that I'm going to share out to you. Then, what actions are you doing that might actually be taking away opportunities from your students? And then thinking of a time that you made a connection in the past, whether it's a personal connection, whether it is something with a classroom connection, and how did that connection enable learning for you? Folks, the big thing about this is to make it meaningful for you and for your students. So that's my hope for you, is that as you're working in this career of education that you would find a lot of meaning in it. And I just end with this last little slide to just share some of the other ways that you can find out more about CBL. Whether and they all have like these little bit.lys. So CBL Talk with bit.ly in front of it, that's the little talk that I did. So if you need to learn more about that, we've got the Connections-Based Learning book, the first book, and then the CBL e-magazine as well. And that's CBL Mag, and it is case sensitive. So folks, that's a lot of talk from me, but really my hope is to get you talking now. So that was the introduction. Folks, the very first question that I have is around you resisting the pull of mediocrity. So as you plan learning experiences, how do you resist yourself? How do you resist the pull of mediocrity in the classroom? Now, folks, I'm just going to open it up. It might get a little messy here as far as people talking over each other, and then that's okay. Just want you to know that this is a super safe place. All ideas are welcome here, and we'll just kind of muddle through this. We've got a lot of educators here, but would love to hear your thoughts.
Sorry, Sean, I have a question. So,
sure.
What does the pull of mediocrity exactly mean?
Great question, Mio. When I think about mediocrity, I think about it being so easy for me to just grab my textbook, turn to the next page, assign those questions to my students, and I'm done as a teacher. And, you know, I'm going for coffee or something like that. And I call it the pull of mediocrity because we're so busy as educators. We don't have a lot of time, and sometimes we're just like, okay, that's what I'm teaching my students. And my question is, if you're going to kind of focus on connection, you're going to have, it's going to be a little bit of work to change one's mindset. I'm not saying that it's more work or that educators need to do more work, but it is a switch. So how you know, what's our motivation about making that switch? Maybe we could talk about some times where we have done something a little bit extra and it really paid off, or we've noticed a change in our students when we've made a connection, something like that.
Well, I think that the motivation is that it's really quite exciting. You know, like I don't usually do the thing, but if I try to open a space for my students to do it, that's easier for me. And also they take ownership. But it's just so amazing to watch. They don't even necessarily know that I've kind of opened that door for them, but I know in my heart that I have. And so I find that really exciting, you know, that they, like all of the examples in your books of people who, you know, they take some initiative and then something wonderful happens in the world.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I have noticed that myself, where I almost feel like I'm an okay teacher. I'm not, you know, nothing, you know, too special, but when I connect with these people, it just opens doors for my students that elevates just, you know, my teaching. And somebody might say, well, Sean, you're a fantastic teacher. I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm still working on my craft here. But with these connections, it's able to, you know, it's got that meaning, it's got that motivation, it's got that opportunity for world-changing things to happen. So totally agree, Diana. Somebody else.
I just wonder if I can say one more thing. I wonder
Please.
During this pandemic, if the pull to mediocrity, I mean, there's this great opportunity because everybody's suddenly more digitally literate, and they see the value of the digital technologies. But I wonder too that right in this particular moment that we're probably drawn to the mediocrity as well. Like there's this tension because we're all so tired and stressed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a lot going on. The way that I'm teaching right now, I have never taught before. I see half my class on Monday, the other half of my class on Tuesday. I see them online on Wednesday. Then I see the half and then the half. And these are 2-hour blocks, which are quite long and require a lot to keep students engaged. So I'm constantly thinking, how can I make this educational for my students? How can I make this doable for myself? It's definitely, we're being pulled, yeah. And I'm hoping, as you said, that when we do engage so much more online like this, that it will be something where we can, put this kind of stuff to practice in our in our classes, right? So we're connected. We're connecting with grandma on Zoom. We're connecting with some friends, and to say, hey, wait a second, how can I put these two things together? Now I see Catherine, you've got your hand up. So go ahead, Catherine. What's your thought?
Yeah, thank you so much. To me, how I've been really looking at the media, as you know, the media, for example, in Uganda now, the media is so harsh, whereby we are in terms of elections, everything is up and down. So, but one thing that I have done is that I try very much to plan ahead and plan to do what I'm supposed to do in terms of collaboration, in terms of work, because this pandemic has really pushed us to do a lot of online teaching. But when you find yourself that the media is so much extracting, especially to the children that we are teaching, so to me, I have been able to find time and plan with the kids and then try to know. And we don't, because, as more, the class in Uganda can last for 120 minutes, but now in the Zoom class, we always take like 40 minutes so that the students, you are not with them, so you don't know their attention and how they are responding to the class so much.
Well, Catherine, for me, there was it was a little bit hard to catch what you were talking about, but I did hear about, with media. So we're constantly checking media, hearing about what's going on, listening to numbers, listening to places where there's an outbreak, definitely. And I caught planning ahead, and yes, so crucial to be able to plan ahead, make sure you kind of look off in the distance. Okay, that's where I'm heading. And then, dial it back and say, well, to get there, this is what I need to do, and this is what I need to do, right? And we're really giving a lot of control over to our students. I know with my classes, we give, so much control. I mean, half the class is with me, and half the class I'm saying, hey, do this kind of work, and then, reflect on these kinds of things. So it's definitely not easy, but if we can, plan ahead and also trust in our students that they're, they're these little people that we've got to, offer some trust with them as they work alone, and then, keep them accountable as well, because anybody, like everybody, we all need accountability. So maybe a bit of that trust and accountability juggling. Catherine, I don't know if I hit a lot of what you were saying, but that's my response. Any other responses to what Catherine was talking about? How about Nero? Nero, you have your hand up as well. What are your thoughts?
I just love the way you framed the question, mediocrity. I mean, like just something which is different. I'm going to use it with my teachers also. Yeah. What I would like to say is a teacher must come out of her or his comfort zone and do something extra. Only then, like, you can be a teacher who can leave an impression on your children. I joined teaching because I have this passion of, you know, changing people's life. I can really mold them to become better citizens. In the end, they have to be better citizens. So for me, it is like connecting them with various classrooms around the world. Again, coming back to connection-based learning, I try to connect them with so many classrooms in the world. I try to connect them with subject experts, like I have computer science experts, or have, as I am a computer teacher. And then I make sure that they take part in projects which are going to enhance their skills. For that, I have to be available for them 24/7, at times, you know, at odd hours also, because they keep on asking me questions. I teach Python programming, so they get stuck up somewhere and then they call me up, and I have given them the liberty to ask me a question whenever they feel stuck up. So I feel that is how I have come out of mediocrity. And otherwise also, I do a lot of work for the society. Like I work for remote villages in hilly areas of India, where I teach teachers ICT tools and their students also. So I feel that doing this, you know, what I'm doing is I'm teaching my students. I'm doing a job. Like it's my job to teach my students. I'm being paid for that. Even if I go beyond my working hours, it's okay. But as a teacher, I have skills of ICT. I must, help my countrymen. I must help villagers. I must help teachers who do not have equitable resources, so that they can actually take advantage of all this and make lives better for their students also. So that's how I work. I come out of mediocrity.
I think that's awesome, Nira. I love your passion. Yeah, I know we get these emails now late at night, you know, students saying, I'm desperate here. And, you know, if you're finding that it's just like, well, no, it's not my work hours, I'm going to kind of put that to the side, then I don't think we feel as good about our own jobs, right? I think that, you know, when we do, you know, go ahead.
No, I think we feel guilty. Like if we do not do that, it feels like we're not doing justice to our job.
Yeah. Definitely. So we're constantly having to find that balance and say, well, you know, I can't respond right now. Maybe in a half an hour or something like that. But when we do have that connection with our students, and that's really where this book kind of goes to at the very beginning, is making that, you know, the teacher-student connection is the most important connection in all of this. Then, you know, it's not just sort of a client who, you know, is reaching out to us, but it's Bob or Susie, you know. It's a human being kind of trying to navigate their own world. And that may, you know, when we look at it in terms of that, I think that it helps us see, oh yeah, well, it's okay. I'll just send a real quick note back to them and then move on, because I've got my life too that I've got to balance as well. Awesome. Any other people want to respond to that particular question about pull of mediocrity? Okay, I'm going to flip over. If you want to talk about, go ahead.
I can respond.
Thank you.
Oh,
that's Kristen. Sure, please.
Yeah, sorry, the baby is not cooperating with me right now. I thought he'd be a little more settled. Sorry about that.
No problem.
But I do feel that I can answer this question in the sense that I try and stay engaged myself. I try and connect with other teachers. I try to stay on top of educational research. I try to kind of delve into professional development, and I try and look at it at different levels, and I say yes to everything that I possibly can, even if it means I'm balancing a baby and getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I try and take all opportunities that come my way, and I feel that your book has really helped me articulate the way that I've always felt and the way I think. And so that's why I don't know, for lack of better words, and sleep, I've become one of your disciples, right? Like I feel like this is just the way that if I'm not teaching this way, it's the way I want to be teaching.
Well, it helps. It helps with that joie de vivre, right? It just like, you know, it helps to make that kind of an enjoyable life, right? You know, like a meaningful life. And if nothing, you know, I talk about meaning a lot, and my hope is for people to say, okay, well, you know, I looked at this concept, or I read this book, and it helps me to find some meaning in what I do. You know, it helps me to move from kind of I'm just going through the motions to more of yeah, okay, you know, I can find meaning. And then I talk about how really the foundation for that is other people, right? It's making those connections. And we find so much meaning, you know, regardless of what personality type we have, we find so much meaning when we make that connection, and it brings out that sense of empathy within us, and a sense of compassion. And yeah, so that's my hope. So I love that, Kristen. And I love how you're able to juggle things, and you're totally welcome to, you know, keep on juggling. And Kaysen's welcome here. And if Kara wakes up, no problem. Anybody else? Okay, well, the next question, and I can see that we're heading off to 7:30, so I don't want to keep us too long, but I did want to head to the second question, to really reflect on what actions are we doing that are taking learning opportunities away from our students. So if there's anything that comes up where you're like, yeah, I think I do a little bit too much here, maybe I should let the students do it. If there's anything like that that's coming to mind, would you mind sharing? Anything coming?
Yeah, I think I can help.
Yeah.
I think I can answer this. I mean, I've been out of the classroom for a couple of years, but thinking back to, and I'm going to be returning to the classroom, so I have to think ahead as well as in the past. And I think when we don't have open-endedness in our teaching, and we don't allow for possibility, that really limits what we do with students. And I mean, having connection as a backbone, even if they're connecting with each other, or connecting with the class next door, or connecting with other students in the school, whether they're older students, younger students, connecting with the, you know, if you're teaching elementary school, connecting with the high school down the street. I mean, there's so many opportunities for connection that are local. And then you add the world on top of that, the global connections that we can make. And you say that you started making connections through Twitter. So it's not hard to do. So just having that, like you say, the framework on the back, like the back of your vocabulary, in the back of your mind when you're planning lessons, it's like, well, that's a really good question to ask. How can my students connect with others? Because it can be, learning can be isolating. Yeah. And speaking from somebody who's doing a doctoral degree, I find it really isolating. You're not, I'm by myself most of the time learning, and you have to force the connections. But if you allow that opportunity, and that's the first thing that you think about when you're planning your lessons, then it becomes really easy. And then all those other things fall into place, like thinking about like different movements that are happening around the world, especially in Canada, when we have lots of work around reconciliation and Indigenous culture, and we have Black Lives Matter movements, and we have all these other different things that are happening around the world, and injustice that's happening around the world, and how can we take those elements of injustice and connect with others so that we can make positive changes. And I think somebody else mentioned, and I was juggling the baby at this moment, but they were talking about having more empathy. I think it was Niru that was talking about having more empathy and having more empathy for others. And I know that a lot of the connections that you're talking about, Sean, are stemming from that, building more empathy with your students and empathy for like the world around us. So I think just having that thought in mind is a seed that will plant. I digress now, so I'm going to stop.
No, that's great. I remember my time in primary grades, grade 2, grade 3. It can be a very lonely time, and the more that we make those connections, some team teaching, we connect with another class within the school, right? At least we're able to have, a little bit of that adult, that adult connection, and we're not just running from home, our kids at home into the school with our 7 and 8 year olds, and then, grabbing a quick bite to eat, and we're doing up jackets and all sorts of stuff, and then, we whip home. But if we can make a connection, within the 4 walls or outside the 4 walls, yeah, you're able to feel like, hey, well, I'm not necessarily alone in all of this. Any other thoughts? Well, I think about myself in answering this question. When I take away voice and choice from my students, I can see how I'm taking away learning opportunities. If I say, well, it's got to be done this way, or, this is what you need to learn right here, here's the content, and I'm spoon feeding them the content, it takes away that opportunity for choice and voice, and it takes away that underlying curriculum, that it's not about the content, but it's about building those skills, and even more so than building the skills, it's actually building the person, that young person that is learning from you. So making sure that I include voice, so giving students a voice and what they're learning, how they're learning it, and giving them a choice and how to demonstrate that learning, then that seems to move me away from taking away those learning experiences. Well, folks, we've got one more question, and I'd like you to think of a learning time or an opportunity that you had in the past where you did make that connection, and would just love to hear maybe somebody share when you did make that connection. What did the students learn from it? Mio, I see your hand. Go ahead, Mio.
All right, so it's regarding to the second question, but
maybe
okay. This is maybe one of the cultures of Asia. We tend to focus more on cramming, so
right.
Yeah, so not only Asia, maybe in some countries, because sometimes we focus too much on passing some tests. And in my case, I'm teaching at secondary school, and students are studying to pass an entrance exam for university. It's more focused on passing on university than students focus on cramming and memorizing more vocabulary or words or some historical flows. But, memorization and cramming never means learning. They forget too easily, Yeah, every time I give a kind of test, short test for students, and they got full mark, like 100, and then the next day they forgot everything.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I have in the book where I share. A student says to me, hey, Mr. Robinson, can we do the test right away? Because I'm going to forget everything if I don't do the test right now. So, and I said, we might as well just give the students the same score that we had before, allow them to play on their phones and run through the halls like decapitated poultry. What are we doing, right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's the time when I think my taking the opportunities for learning. away. But then I'll go on to the third question. So I think a kind of virtual connection can be enhance students learning more because they experience and they feel like Kristen said, they feel empathy to each other. So yeah, once we read a story about India actually. That's a story of water shortage in Maharashtra, state Maharashtra. And the problem of such reading material is sometimes it's too biased. So it's far from realistic. And we read the story of water shortage, and then we connected a teacher in India and gave some interview about it. And he said that some part of the reading material is not true, actually.
That's right. So we can get, yeah, and that's another thing about making those connections is we get up to the minute, like the real heartfelt research of what we're talking about, as opposed to this was published 10, 20 years ago, or this is devoid of any humanity or any feeling behind it, that kind of learning.
Yeah, and one amazing thing that the teacher we connected, the Indian teacher we connected then was awarded the Global Teacher Prize the other day, the Ranjit Desali.
No way!
Yeah,
what a
story.
You know. Yeah, oh, I mean, yeah, that was so early in the morning, the prize. It was 3 a.m. for me, so I had to catch it afterwards. But that I didn't know that. That's an awesome story. Oh, Neera was going to say something about that.
Oh, okay.
I'm really proud of Ranjit. Like he's a colleague of mine, and we've met a number of times, and he's a wonderful teacher, and really proud. Like he's brought the glory to India. And I'm sure all of us must have, connected with him at some time. It was amazing. I couldn't stop myself. I'm really sorry, Mio. I just, barged in, but I couldn't stop myself.
No. That must exude so much pride, Ranjit winning. And then how he said, yes, it's $1 million, but I'm going to share this with all of the other top 10. So allow them to do kind of their work with that money.
Yeah, I think this is also one of the advantages of connection because my students saw Ranjit as a kind of village teacher in India, the rural side, like me. But even a rural teacher like me, or even in the local community, you have a chance or you have an opportunity to be awarded or to be recognized as a global teacher or a teacher who's doing an amazing job or dedicated their life to their children. Yeah, so they know, the students know that they also have a chance to be successful.
Yes, yeah, right. What an example of, you talk about it, right? Rural teacher, like, let's not discount anybody working in any place because you never know, next thing you know, they will be, the Nobel Prize of Education winner, basically. Wow, that is such a cool thing. Any other thoughts about that last question about making a connection and the impact on the students and their learning? Well, folks, I would love for the discussion to go on forever. I want to give you any opportunities for some last words. I saw that we lost on the participants. We don't have Catherine Nakabugo anymore. I don't see her, so it's too bad because I'd love to hear about the school that she's hoping to build. Folks, I want to focus on that in the CBL e-magazine. So just continue to, I hope everybody here is subscribed. It's just a way for me to get out some information to you, whether it's, about, some teaching, some research, something about a new book coming along, a new app or platform. So please take a look at that, and I'll try to share some stuff around what Catherine's doing with this school. I know it's a big thing for her to build a school. I think $50,000 is what she's hoping to raise. for this particular school. But if you can, keep posted on that and see if you can help out in any kind of way. And then, folks, as I mentioned before, feel free to take kind of what we've talked about here. You can see how we can do a very easy kind of book launch, a book club with very little. All you really need to do is come together. So if you set that link, that Zoom link, and you send it out to some people and say, hey, let's just get together. We're going to talk about whether it's the Connection Lens or some other book. But really, I want you to focus in these tough times on connecting with other people, making sure that we're connecting with our home and our families, that kind of thing, but also to make sure we're connecting with our educational colleagues in and around the world. So any final words from anybody that they just have to burst out and share with everyone?
Oh, I just want to say this is my first time meeting all of you, and it's been really inspiring. So thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely an inspiring group.
I would like to say thank you, Shane, for bringing us together and having this enlightening talk today. It was really wonderful, and let's have some more of these sessions.
Yeah. Well, keep posted. We'll try to put more of these opportunities together. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I just want to again thank you, Sean, for helping us bridge the world a little bit. Like, you are kind of a conduit to this, and I'm so pleased to meet everybody, and I'm always looking for projects and things for my students. I'm going to be teaching 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds, so if anybody is in the same kind of field or a different one and they would like to connect with students in Canada, please feel free to connect with me. So thank you.
Yeah, folks, Kristen makes me think about how if you do hope to connect with somebody here, please just put your either Twitter handle, your email or something in the chat. We'll just leave it open for the next 10 minutes or something like that to just give you a chance if you want to jot down an email or a person's name or something like that and say, oh, I'd love to connect. I see Kristen's got her Twitter handle in there. Niru saying, I'd love to connect. And we've got Mio's handle in there as well. And Fred, great to have you. Great to connect again. Well, folks, I want to let Mio get off to sleep and, Kristen to get back with the baby. So thank you so much for just taking the risk to say, yeah, hey, I'll spend an hour and a bit with Sean. I really appreciate it. I so appreciate all of you. I really want to honor you, and I hope that throughout this conversation I was able to kind of say, hey, you're doing some amazing things. I mean, we have a whole host. Everybody here is doing something special and amazing. And, I'm just so thankful that you could all connect to see each other. So thanks for taking the risk to come and join us, and keep looking at the CBLE magazine. And, you can even reach out to me and remind me of, hey, we need to get together again or whatever like that, and I can always set up something, all right? I see Diane's got her Twitter handle in there. Make sure you follow her. And folks, with nothing more, no further ado, have a great day and keep connecting. We'll see you later.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Mio. Great
Bye.
seeing you.
Good
night.
Bye. Have a good day. Yeah.
See you, Fred.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks so much for joining us. Great seeing you, Habib. Habib, I really want to hear more about the connection that you had with the solar tablet. Like that really excites me. And Kristen, we'll see you later. Take care, guys.